Let's keep going. I'm to the point where I just kind of want to get these over with, even though I love doing them, but I want to move on to the stuff that's a little bit harder. This is really easy to do. All I got to do is pull them out and show you guys, and it's hot as hell in this house, and I ain't got nothing better to do right now. So this one I picked up in the late 90s. It was on Priority Records. They came out with it, and it's just got a lot of mid-level range salsa on it. Just stuff that's really good. Nothing great, but just really good. I grease penciled a whole bunch of numbers on the back of this. I'd like to go back in time and talk to myself, ask myself why I did that. These are all random, by the way. Genesis, their self-titled album with Mama on it. This is one of the probably the first Genesis album I ever heard, if I remember correctly. My mom, we were poor. My mom would go to the library, take home the records, record the records on the tape, give me the tapes for Christmas. On one, she had this one mismatched. It was Neil Diamond on one side, some kind of greatest hits thing, maybe, with Caroline on it. I remember that song. But the song with the side that was Genesis said it was Neil Diamond. And I was 4 or 5 years old, whatever. And I could really get into this. I liked it a lot. It's funny, you know, my mom was not a very good mother. She's passed away now. Not trying to be, you know, contriving, but the first song on it being Mama, about not having a very good mom, is kind of interesting. Don't sleep on this album, Aerosmith, Get a Grip. If you like Aerosmith, if you like old Aerosmith, I hear people talking about how Aerosmith in the 70s was really good, but all the stuff they did in the 80s and 90s was crap. There's good songs on this. Eat the Rich is a good song. Get a Grip is a good song. It's got Crying, Amazing, and Crazy on it, and those songs were the ones that they made music videos for that were just really incendiary. That ain't the right word. Insipid might be the right word. Very just terrible music videos, but you can't sleep on their music. Their stuff is you can find something good on every one of their albums. The last album they did, Music from Another Dimension or something like that, that was crap. But in the newest Steven Tyler solo album is crap. But everything else they did, there's something good on it. Yes, their stuff from the 70s is great, but Bob Marley, greatest hits. You can play this in front of anybody. Everybody likes it. Everybody knows who Bob Marley is. I respect him. I like him. I like watching interviews with him because he's always got a fat joint. I mean, a fat joint. This guy smoked weed like a chain smoker smoked cigarettes. Uma Guma, this is the live album. The live album's not nearly as good as the solo album. I like Uma Guma. The studio one. The live stuff, it's just them playing in a room and they're just doing it sporadically. There's nobody there listening to it. It's being engineered and produced right there on the spot. This is the live one. It was a double disc. The other one's the studio one. It's crazy, but it's good. Can't think of the name of the song, but the Meadows Lark or something like that is so cheaply done, and so it's just good. Volume 2 of a salsa thing I bought. I don't know why I bought this. It must have been really cheap because I've got all these songs somewhere else. And, there was like 3 or 4 in the pack. I must have paid very cheap for it, and that's why I bought it as a collector's thing. The Faint, I don't know much about this album. If this is Faint and The Pose, I've been told by music gurus I need to listen to this. If that's what this is, The Faint and The Pose, that's the terminology that comes to mind. I think this is some kind of Christian thing. There's a little bit of Christian music I like. I don't remember what that sounds like. Sponge. Must have picked that up real cheap. Don't remember what that is. I showed this earlier as a record. Remember the Future. Part 1, 16 and a half minutes long. Part 2, 19 minutes long. This is a good album. Yeah, it's a good one. It might be... Man, somebody wrote on there, Digital Waves, number 8. I wonder what that's all about. I pick all these up used, or most of them. Vince Guaraldi, Charlie Brown Christmas. He has one album I like. I can't remember what it was. Fight. This is Judas Priest lead singer Rob Halford's solo project. I bought this very recently, actually, and I wanted to listen to it. It seems interesting to me. I'm a huge Judas Priest fan. There's the Goodwill sticker. but I never got a chance to listen to it, or I never did listen to it. This one is something else. Cannonball Adderley. Cannonball Adderley is actually buried in my hometown. He's a alto sax player. This is one of the first albums, and probably the first album that Miles Davis was on Blue Note, and that's what it's famous for. It also has Art Blakey on drums. I always call him Blakely. I've called him that ever since I knew what he was, and that's the schema I built in my head, and that's what I call him, Art Blakely, even though that's not his name. One of the best jazz drummers of all time. It's just a really thick sound. This is an incredible album. It really is. The version of Autumn Leaves on here, which is the first song, which is a jazz standard, is the best version of Autumn Leaves I ever heard. You should listen to it. You should just go to YouTube and listen to it now. If you're watching this, stop the tape. Go and listen to that version of Autumn Leaves. It is heavily psychedelic, inspired, all that. Pirates of the Caribbean with Black Sabbath Technical Ecstasy in it. I'm really bad when I take these out. See, I would take this to my car and play it for my kids because it's just something that I can play with my kids. It's another Hans Zimmer. I think I showed one of his in the last videos. But, you know, I end up with a different CD in it because I start scrounging things around and want to listen to other stuff. This is one of the greatest jazz albums of all times. It's a little bit overlooked. One of my favorite jazz pianists, Bill Evans' Trio. I bought this album years and years ago, maybe when I was a teenager, and I was like, wow, wow, wow. You know, I had Waltz for Debbie. I've had a couple of his others, and this one was never a popular one. And then when I listened to it, I'm like, this is something else. The first song, Israel, Beautiful Love, the take one is incredible. It's got the song Nardis, and I think that ended up being a Miles Davis standard. But this one right here, the first trio he had with Scott LaFaro and Paul Moten on drums, it is something else. The stuff that Scott LaFaro does with his bass is something else. I am going to make it through this one good. I thought I was going to have to go cut this in half and grab more CDs. Grant Green, Matador, not his best album. It's got Elvin Jones on drums, which is one of the best drummers of all times. It's Grant Green's guitar player, one of my favorite. I'm not a big fan of jazz guitar, but I love Grant Green. I think it's because he purposely makes his guitars sound like a horn. This one is not his best album, which is a shame because it's Elvin Jones on drums, which is one of my favorite drummers of all times. He plays on some of my favorite jazz albums. And it's got McCoy Tyner on piano. Now, they do a version of My Favorite Things on here, and this is after McCoy Tyner, because McCoy Tyner and Elvin Jones were house musicians with John Coltrane for a while. And this is right after they did the album My Favorite Things with John Coltrane. And it sounds just like that one with Grant Green on guitar. It's kind of contrived. It's not terrible, and this is a good album. It's one, like I say, you know, the song Matador is very good. It's got this version of Wives and Lovers on it, which shows up on a couple different albums as a B-side. And, you know, I don't really like that, and I don't like the fact that they, you know, double up and triple up on these B-sides. But this is a decent album. His best... Tough. Maybe Idle Moments is his best, but Grant Green is incredible. Some rockabilly double disc that I never got around to listening to. I like rockabilly, but I'm very specific about it. I am psyched that I found this. There was something, and I marked off some songs on here. I must have marked off all the salsa songs on here with a grease pencil, just going through the songs that I really liked. And, or either that, or I must have did that. There's a video I actually want to do featuring this album, and I may do that here soon. You know, I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm going to put it in that video and talk about it. Eddie Palmiero, Le Perfecto with Ismael Quintana. This is a late 60s album. He is a pioneer of salsa music. This is a pioneer album. Don't want to talk too much about it because I need to save the Latin stuff for a different time. Havana Mambo, have no idea what this is. It looks like just complete garbage that I kept just because it was Latin. Best of Mountain. Mountain did Mississippi Queen. It's on here. Roll Over Beethoven. Mountain, Leslie West, their guitar player, their leader. They did some good albums. Their best stuff is live. And I'm at the 10-minute mark. Let me stop right there. This is good.